Everyone, I am back with another tutorial. In this video, we are going to learn about the Room database in Android. I am going to cover this tutorial in different parts. Before moving on to Room database, first we need to understand what is ORM, Object Relational Mapping. Let's begin. So, what is Object Relational Mapping? Object relation mapping (ORM) is a technique used in creating a bridge between object-oriented programming and, in most cases, the relational databases. When interacting with a database using OOP language, you will have to perform different operations like creating, reading, updating, and deleting. In short form, we can say the CRUD data from a database, but by design you use SQL for performing this operation in relational databases. So what is room? The room persistent library, it is an abstraction layer over SQLite. The room is an ORM, object relational mapper, for SQLite database in Android. It is a part of architectural component. The room makes using SQLite much easier for you by implementing on annotations. So why to use room? Compile time verification. In SQLite database, if query has any error, then it will cause runtime exception. If we use room, then it will check the query at compile time itself so that we can prevent the app from the runtime exceptions. Okay. So the next reason is boilerplate code. To convert the data from SQLite to DTO, data transfer object, we need to write lot of code. Those are internally managed by Room. So we don't need to write the conversion code over here. Okay. So next one is easily integrated with other architectural component. Room is an Android architecture component, so it can provide the data as observable live data or RxJava single object directly. So what are the components of Room? So there are three components are there in Room. First one is database, and second one is DAO, and third one is in entity. So first let's discuss about the entity. So entity represent a table within a database. Entity is basically a table, okay? So Room creates a table for each class that has entity annotation. The field in class correspond to the column in the table. Okay. Therefore, the entity classes tend to be small model classes that don't contain any logic. So entity basically is a table. Okay. Now we move forward. So some useful annotation and their attribute, foreign keys, name of the foreign key, indices, list of indicates on the table, primary key, name of entity, primary keys, and table name. So what is the primary key? As its name indicates, this annotation points the primary key of the entity. Okay, if we set the auto generate to true, then the SQLite will generating a unique ID for a column. Okay, the primary key must be unique. Okay, so here is the syntax: primary key auto generate. We are set to true. Okay, the second attribute is column info. Allow specifying the custom information about the column. Here is the column name. We can specify the column name over here. Okay. Now, what is database? To create a database in Room, we need to create a class and annotate it with the database. Okay. To create the database, we need to give what are all the tables should be there in the DB, and DB version is an annotation. Okay, we are going to perform one practical and I am going to explain it about it. Okay. Now let's move forward. So what is DIO? It is basically data exert object. Okay, to access the database content, we need to create a database object using an interface with a DIO notation. Okay, DIO is basically an interface. Okay, inside this interface, we need to create the method required for DB operation. So here we can use for annotation. Okay, In DAO, we use the four annotation which are query, insert, update, delete. Okay. Query to run raw query, we need to use user this annotation. Inside, we need to pass the query. Okay. Second one is insert the data into the database, update the data into the database, and last one is the delete the record from the database. Okay. Now let's open the Android Studio over here, and I'm going to give an example. So first we need to create one project. Okay, here is a project I've already been created. Okay, now I need to take one fragment over there. Okay, let's click over here and take new. I will take one fragment.